Our casting voters said that they hate them all. Well, you are the casting vote. You have to pick one. Otherwise we'll be sitting here forever. And as much as I can talk, pretty sure me talking and looking at a character selection. Paladin. Paladin it is. Right, we are on. Paladin actually not quite so bad as you think in Arena. So let's get drafting. Wild Pyromancer. So you may hear the hammering away. What we are doing is the quick draft options, where we are actually letting both the chat know what is going to be up. Of course they will sit in the chat. And we've got 3 strong options there. The Angry Chick, well, actually I lie. We've got probably 1 strong option and 2 interesting ones. The Angry Chicken, if I can get health on it, then it's great if it enrages, but you're probably not going to get health on it. The Wild Pyromancer, solid minion. 3 votes for the Pyromancer. The Oracle is good if that battle cry, of course, your opponent draws cards, but if you're trying to fill your hands with cards or running something like a Miracle Rogue, pretty useful. 3 votes for the Pyro, a no-brainer there. Next up we have some pretty strong cards. We've got Consecration, Hammer of Wrath, and the Iron Beak Owl. So while the chat mosey on down and decide what they want to do, Consecration, great area clearance, strong, you know, in terms of just clearing the board, setting up kills and various other things, removing bubbles, all sorts. Hammer of Wrath, 3 damage and drawing a card. Not only is that control and sort of a spell card to pick things off, but the card draw also very strong. And then Iron Beak Owl, a solid minion, and of course that battle cry of silencing a minion can come in handy in oh so many situations. So 3 pretty strong options there. We're just waiting for the chat to make up their minds between all of them. We'll pretty much see. This is only turn 2, so we'll see what we come up with at maybe 10 cards in, 15 cards in, and see what we go for. Paladins, while we wait for the chat to make their mind up, of course, got good options in that they've got a pretty solid minion set, some really good abilities, and of course they can always have table presence just because of that ability of summoning lots and lots of 1/1 token minions that you can buff up and do all sorts of nasty things. We have a split evenly between Hammer and Consecrate. I am in Arena a little bit scared of swarmy rubbish and being overwhelmed. The Hammer of Wrath does give the card draw. I'm going to go with Consecrate on this occasion, and maybe we'll see what we've got next. A late vote comes in for Hammer. We'll take Hammer next time. Eye for an Eye. Choice 1, Repentance. Choice 2, or Dark Scale Healer. Choice 3. Eye for an Eye, when your hero takes damage, deal that much damage to the enemy hero. I've been a little bit behind between you and me on my Hearthstone news recently. There's a really great, cracking new Paladin secret that's going to be coming out. We'll cover that in a different video. That's in Curse of Naxxramas. Eye for an Eye at the moment. It's alright, but I'd really want to drop that in the late game when my hero is under risk of taking a lot of damage. Repentance, when an opponent plays a minion, reduce its health to 1. Again, if I play that in the late game with big, scary minions, then that is potentially better, but again an iffy secret. And restoring 2 health to all friendly characters is what you guys have all voted for, so that is in. Right, we've now got the Wind Fury Harpy, we've got Redemption, or the Frost Wolf Grunt. Wind Fury Harpy trades statistics in terms of attack and health for that Wind Fury ability. Not to be underestimated, can be awkward in the late game. That 5 health is not so easy to deal with. Not generally a constructed card, but could be alright in draft. Redemption we've just covered, and the Frostwolf Grunt is a solid early game tank. Just the 2/2/2, you're not going to be messing up too much. An overwhelming majority of votes for Frostwolf. Let's keep this moving quick. Next we've got Earthen Ring Farseer, Stone Tusk Ball, and the Blessing of Might. Stone Tusk is a good trading token card. You can get that down turn 1 or indeed any turn and either ping a shield, activate some damage, solid. Restoring health with the Earthen Ring Farseer. The stats are pretty solid, 3/3/3, and then that Battle Cry of restoring 3 health heals, always handy in this kind of situation. And last but not least, a Blessing of Might, a very solid drop in terms of 1 mana and just buffing a minion for 3 attack. We have an overwhelming from the people who are voting choice for Earthen Ring Farseer, so we will keep it moving. And then we have a Thralmar Farseer. We have Consecration again. Oh, we should have taken the Hammer of Wrath last time, and the Archmage 2. So Thralmar Farseer, really much like that the Harpy that we saw before. Trade stats for Wind Fury. Awkward, can do some picking off and game control. Needs to be taken out really by an opponent as soon as they see it. Consecrate for that area clearance again, and then Archmage is a later game drop, sacrifices that attack for a bit of spell damage. Consecration is the core. So let's grab that up. Next we have the Stormpike Commando. We've got the Wolf Rider and the Frostwolf Grunt. Stormpike Commando. So that is a hard-hitting card. Drop it, 4 attack, 2 damage. Has to be taken out. And the Battle Cry of 2 damage can pop shields, set up various minions for a little bit of damage, and similar ping heroes if there's nothing else to do with it. So a solid 5-drop there. Wolf Rider. It's a charging, damaging card before it dies, so it's used for a trade. And then last but not least, another Frostwolf Grunt for that 2-mana tankage. We will review this deck. We have a couple of votes for the Wolf Rider, so that is going to be the one. Next we've got another Windfury Harpy. We've got a Sen'jin Shieldmaster, or Tazdingo as he's affectionately known due to how he calls. And then also that Secret of Repentance again. My mashing of words in the chat is a sight to see indeed. I'm pretty sure that all of you guys in the chat will have some kind of degree in foreign language translation. There is this thing that says that as Sen'jin Shieldmaster is picked by everyone unanimously. That's good stuff. There's a thing that sort of linguists say in terms of universities and other things like that, that you only need to be able to recognise the first couple and last couple of letters of a word, and then your brain unscrambled is it. I'm very glad that the chat has that ability, because that's exactly how I'm typing. So we've got Tauren Warrior, Frost Elemental, Fen Creeper. Tauren Warrior, great for the Enrage. I quite like it, but as soon as it enrages, it's down to that 2 health and quite vulnerable to removal. Frost Elemental, a Battle Cry for Freeze is always useful and solid attacking stats. And then the Fen Creeper, just a horribly solid tank. We have a couple of votes for the Fen Creeper, and in he comes. Ancient Watcher next up. Bloodsail Corsair is also there, and then Defender of Argus. Wonderful. And welcome to new people in the chat. So the Ancient Watcher, great if we can somehow silence him, or indeed if we can drop down a card that gives buffs and taunt. If we can make him into a tank, or if we can somehow silence him, is very, very handy. The Bloodsail Corsair, you can remove a durability from your opponent's weapon, but the stats are a bit iffy. Situational, I think, at best. But could have a purpose. And last but not least, it is the Defender. At the moment we have 2 votes for Defender, and we have a single vote for the Bloodsail. Let us grab the Defender in that case, as we want to keep this moving within our half hour. Next up we have Redemption, we have the Scarlet Crusader, and then we have the Elven Archer as well. Done Redemption, Scarlet Crusader with the bubble, solid attack for its mana cost, very low health of course, but the bubble makes up for it. This card you drop, it should stay alive a turn, it will let you remove something. And last but not least, the Elven Archer with that Battle Cry of 1 damage, being able to jump in and ping various things. Your votes are at the moment with the Scarlet Crusader. Feeling pretty good about that choice. Okay, let's keep on moving. Scarlet is it. And then we have the Dread Corsair. We have the Novice Engineer, and then Eye for an Eye. So we've covered one of those cards in Eye for an Eye already. The Dread Corsair, really good in the Paladin deck if we can draw a weapon, because it's got taunt. The mana cost is a bit more expensive, but if we have a weapon down, then that's immediately making this card cheaper. Novice Engineer, of course, used to that 2 mana mark, pardon me, for that draw power. You just throw it out there, you're going to draw a card, and you're going to be happy with that choice. So it's pretty good. We've got people switching around, not quite sure what they want to go for. One for Eye for Eye, another for Engineer, and then a switch for a Dread. Drawing the Dread is banking on a weapon, so if you guys are happy to pick weapons later in the draft, a Dread could be a solid pick, but the Novice Engineer will give draw power. We've had a deciding vote. And oh no, I believe we've had 1 for everything. No, we've had 2 for the Engineer. So the Engineer comes up and gets it. We have the Skillwind Yeti, Shattered Sun Cleric, and then the Silverhand Knight. Now that is actually an awesome 3 pick there. We could have a very solid option either way. So we've not covered any of these. There's Chillwind Yeti, mana efficient wise, basic card. You drop it, it causes problems. It's got good attack. It can trade probably 2 for 1. Good in all sorts of ways. Shattered Sun Cleric, of course, if we're dropping that and buffing up minions, it can be equally strong. And last but not least, the Silverhand Knight. Now, with the 4/4 and summoning a 2/2 Squire, that actually gives good board control, table presence, whatever you want to call it. 2 for the price of 1 card in Arena is pretty strong as well, just because it gives you more attacking and threatening options. We've got a few Yetis, we've got 1 for the Silver Hand Knight. We'll just give it a couple more seconds to see what you guys decide as to what the way forward is. So 3 pretty strong options. While everyone is voting, I'm just going to take a quick look. When we get to 15 cards, I always encourage people, when you're drafting Arena, at maybe 10 cards, 15 cards, 20 cards, sort of a few, multiples of 5 landmarks. Just review what you've got in your deck, because it will affect how you draft forward. You guys have, for the moment, voted for the Yeti, so I'm going to go with your choice, as that's what this episode is about. Let's see if we regret leaving that Silver Hand Knight, because I think that could have been a strong play, but I think that I'm very, very happy with the Yeti as well. That will drop and do some damage and be generally awkward. So we have Thraumar Farseer, a Mogshoan Warden, and the Bloodsail Raider. Now, Thraumar Farseer we've already covered. Just a simple drop in terms of Wind Fury. We can trade in the early game. The Mogshoan Warden, of course, no attack really to speak of, but for that 4 health, it is awkward. That is going to sit on the table for a good couple of turns. And last but not least, we have the Bloodsail Raider. Again, if we're going to be drafting weapons, then that's a solid option. Getting attack equal to the attack of your weapon. You can see the trend of the pirate cards to feed off whatever weapon you've got equipped, so pretty good for weapon bearing classes. So we have 1 Farseer, 2 Farseer, we have 3, 4, a unanimous vote for the Thraumar Farseer. Interesting, we can get some trading going with that then. And 1 more card before we're at halfway. So we've got a Holy Light, we've got a Corehound, and another Thraumar Farseer. So the Farseer we've seen so many times, I'm not going to cover. The Corehound, really in an Arena drop, that is going to be a finishing option. A late game mana drop that will drop, and hopefully by that time we can swing in with it and start doing some serious damage for the victory. Holy Light is pretty much a Ronseal card if you're in the UK. to explain the reference, there is a sort of a slightly infamous series of adverts in the UK for Ronseal, which is a garden product, but its phrases, it does exactly what it says on the tin. There's no subtlety to Holy Light, just like Ronseal. 2 mana, 6 health, it has been voted for, and that is our choice. So we've got through 15 out of 30 cards. Let's take a quick pause from our draft that you have been picking and see what we've got so far. So in terms of mana curve, always something to look at whether you're building a constructed or an Arena deck. We can see that we've got a reasonable spread throughout the middle of the field, I'd say the early to midfield. 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana and 5 mana drops. What are we lacking? Well, the first couple of turns we might lack a few things to play. Not necessarily a problem, depending on what the goal of our deck is. So as you guys draft, as I draft, I always try and keep a track on what I've drafted as to whether it's good, and then let that have some kind of steer on how I'm going to play the rest of my deck or draft the rest of the game. By halfway through, is there some kind of trend in the cards that we picked? Is there a deck theme that I can build towards? What are the good options? What is the strategy that we're going for? All random cards is well and good, but in the second half of your Arena draft, you really want to try and take all of the strong stuff you've got and try and build on that, rather than going for random things. So mana curve, we don't have much late game, we've got a bunch in the middle, okay, but mana curve only takes you so far. So next, let's see what we've got. Well, we've got, I always do have a look at sort of spells versus minions. It's a good sort of general sort of sticking point. If you're playing a spell heavy deck or a mage heavy deck, that can, or a spell heavy deck or a minion heavy deck, that will also affect the kind of cards that you draft. So we've got a Heal and Holy Light, a turn to Taunt, and a turn to draw power in the Novice Engineer. Wild Pyromancer we can use either as a solid attacking minion, or we can use it as AoE clearance. If we have Murloc decks or nasty Shaman decks, the Wild Pyromancer will be very useful in terms of token removal. By tokens I mean small minion removal, that kind of beer. In terms of turn 3, we've got a Heal, an Elden Ring Farseer, Trading Scarlet Crusader, a Wind Fury, Thraumar Farseer. We've got the team of Farseers coming together, all of these Shamans, and a Wolf Rider. So we've actually got some really strong trading capability in 3 mana zone. I'm pretty happy with all of those choices. 4 minions, which will be very, very good. Excuse me just one second, you don't want to hear me sneeze down the microphone. At 4 mana, we've got 2 Consecrations, so again, along with that Pyromancer, we've got some really good table clearance, so I'm quite enjoying that. That's very nice. Also, Chillwind Yeti, a very solid minion, Defender of Argus. We can use that to buff any of the minions we've dropped previously, create some tanks. A tank in the Senzen Shieldmaster, healing in the Darkscale Healer, and a tank in the Flame Creeper. So we actually, guys, have got a lot of tanking options. Do remember that when we come into the second half of our draft. Both from turn 2 all the way through our minions, we've peppered this set of minions. We've got some very strong minions, some minions that feed off each other, and some good tanking options and trading options. So what can we do? We could afford, for example, off the basis of this to maybe grab a few more spells. We could afford to perhaps grab some later game minions. What we've got at the moment here is 15 out of 30 cards is a very solid core of a deck, not really loads of spells. Paladin do have some access to some good buffs. We don't have huge late game finishes, but at the moment it looks as though what we're doing is we don't have huge trading ability bar this sort of mid zone. We might want some trading spells, we might want some big late game finishing minions, or we might want to pepper up the middle of our deck with a lot more attacking and offensive minions so we can really keep either the opponent's board under control, if that's how you guys decide to go, or aggro. We could take this Paladin deck very, very aggro. What we've got now is sort of a middle-ish core. We could go aggro, we could go control. So let's see how the deck takes us. So that's our mid-deck review at this point in time. Okay, let's jump straight back in. You guys have been voting because I've already had this screen up. And what else do we have? We have... okay. We have a vote for Cult Master there. We've got a vote for Dragonhawk as well. We've got a vote for... Cult. 3 votes for Cult. So Cult it is. Next up, was tempted by the Dragonhawk. We now have Humility. We have a Stormwind Champion. We have a Southsea Deckhand. So we've not had either of these 3. Humility, and that will let you change all minions attack to 1, so that helps us take out or nullify the threat of big dangerous minions on our opponent's side of the table. Not a bad option. Stormwind Champion, your other minions have 1/1. If we have got a lot of minions on the table, then that is an excellent finisher, as well as buffer 2. So a good finisher too. Last but not least, the Southsea Deckhand, charge while a weapon equipped. Solid 1/2/1. You can do some picking, but you want a weapon. Everyone has gone for the champion. Cheers, guys. That is a lovely pick. So Downrun Mage, a Guardian of Kings, and a Frost Elemental. So the Mage buffs spell power. At the moment, we do not have much spell power. So at the risk of influencing your decision, you could have uses, situational, stats average, if really good if you want to have that spell power going. So 50-50 on that one. Guardian of Kings trades stats for a huge heal. Will really help us in the late game if we drop that in a good way. Last but not least, the Frost Elemental. In that 6 area, the Battle Cry of a Freeze that we've already seen is very, very solid. All of you have gone for the Guardian of Kings. So there we go. We now have a raid leader. We have a Stormpike Commando. We have an Acolyte of Pain. Not had either of those 3. Very, very nice. So Raid Leader buffs everything on the table. We've got a lot of solid stuff in the mid-game. This would only add to that. Really make us very, very strong. Stormbite Commando, picking things off with the Battle Cry. So again, solid for a 5 pick. We don't have huge amounts there. Could be an option. And last but not least, the Acolyte of Pain. Just means we can draw more cards. There is seemingly a majority of votes for the Acolyte, so I know we are speeding on through. So we now have a Young Priestess, a Mana Wraith, a Blessed Champion. The Young Priestess, if we get that down at the right time, and it's not necessarily turn 1, even with that 1 mana, that 1 health can get oh so awkward, and if you put it down behind a tank, it can be really, really awkward. Prevalent in Zoo, but not necessarily bad in the arena. I've had a lot of fun with those cards. Mana Wraith, all minions costing 1 more. If you get it out, it can cause some awkwardness and slow your opponent down. But in arena, not quite so handy. Be interested to find a good use for that. All of you have gone for Young Priestess. I'm not even going to go for Blessed Champion, but that is a very solid double buff card. And we've got an Argent Commander, a Cold Light Oracle, and a Secret Keeper. I had 2 of those. We've had the Cold Light Oracle already, but useful if you want to stuff your hand. Argent Commander trades out at 6 mana, so very, very solid. You will be trading, attacking, finishing, being generally awkward. And the Secret Keeper as well. We don't have any secrets, so that is probably less strong in this deck, I would probably say. You guys all flying on in for the Argents, so top stuff. We now have Equality. We've got the Arcane Golem and the Ancient Watcher. Covered the Ancient Watcher, but useful for tanking up. We've only got 1 card at the moment that silences, by the way. Sorry, no cards that silence, only 1 that buffs things up in terms of tanks. The Arcane Golem, Charge and Battle Cry. Again, a vicious early game version of the Argent Commander, but it does give our opponent a bit of a ramping advantage, and by ramping, or shaving as I called it in one particular episode, it means that we give them a boost. So that's got a downside. And Equality, all minions health to 1, that helps us do area clearance. so very, very strong. Okay, what have we got? We've got equality, golem. Ooh, okay, so we've got 1 vote for the golem. Combos with the wild. At the moment, you guys are going for golem, so I will give another few votes. I know that equality is a very strong combo with the wild pyromancer. No one seems to be mentioning Ancient Watcher. If you watch the UK show, and I don't know if it foreign translates known as Countdown, then there's a clock counting down so we can make a decision. Ooh, we've gone for a couple of equalities. I think we've gone for a couple of equalities. Yep, we've gone for equality. So anyway, we have Light's Justice, an Acidic Swamp Ooze, and a Noble Sacrifice, which is known as Get Down! That's not a very good impersonation of that voice on. Light's Justice lets you, for a high durability, low damage, just chip away at things. Can be quite handy. Can also be used to buff up all of those various pirate cards that we've seen. Acidic Swamp Ooze lets the weapon removal drop if we're playing against someone with weapons. Also, for 2/3/2, it's a really solid stats card. There's some good plays as well for Noble Sacrifice, actually, in terms of a secret. If you throw it down at the right time, you can just trade something off the table. You can nullify various options, but you guys have gone with use. 3 pick here. We've got Divine Favor, spelt the American way for one of you US folks out there. Oldor Peacekeeper, and the Ancient Watcher. Divine Favour, now if you play that at the right time, it is Paladin Draw Power Deluxe. If I have someone who's drawing away at me, then dropping one of those really gets me back in the card game. So it could be quite a nice pick. People don't have as big draw in Arena generally as they do in Constructed, so that is something to take into account. The Old Peacekeeper, solid stats and changing an attack to 1, can indeed nullify sort of various opponent threats. Last but not least, we've already gone over that Ancient Watcher, so really we don't have a huge amount to silence it with. Could be okay, could not be okay. We have a couple of votes for the Peacekeeper, so again for the Peacekeeper, you guys is rejecting the draw power options in terms of more solid stuff. Okay, we now have an Elven Archer, which we've already got over. We have a River Crocodist, a Raid Leader. We've covered 2 of those already. The River Crocodist I'll cover as it's the one we haven't seen. Solid stats, good in Hunter decks, drops various things down. A couple of silvered. We've gone for 2 leaders, 2, perhaps even 3 leaders. So that is your vote. 25 out of 30 to go. So we have a Dread Corsair, we've got a Chillwind Yeti again, and Light's Justice again. So we've had all of those. You guys know all of those already, whether you're on vid or whether you're on chat. So while you look at all of those and make your decision, I'm just going to quickly review with 5 odd cards to go what we've got. So if we look at our mana card, it's now evolved. We've got so much in this mid game. We are going to be very, very aggressive in this early to mid game because we've got so many minions to put some pressure on. We don't have a huge amount of late game finishes, but what we do have, if we scroll down the list, we scroll down the list 5 to 7. We've got healing, tanks, and then we can swing in and do damage with these in the late game with the Storm and Champion buffing up our minions. In terms of looking at our 2, 3, 4, we have a combination of tanks. We've got a combination of all kinds of things here, but I think it's generally around we want to swarm minions in this early to mid game, keep our opponent under control and really try and take the game in turns 4 or 5 really, just the amount of stuff that we have. And you guys have split the vote between all 3. So because the vote has been split between all 3, I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Chillwind Yeti. La done with you on this one. Abusive Sarge. We've got an Abusive Sergeant, Storm and Champion, and a Southsea Deckhand. We've covered all of those before. So you guys have picked a very aggro heavy deck. We're going to be sort of swarming with minions and trying to trade in the early to mid game, really putting that pressure on and hoping to take board control very early so that in the late game we don't almost have to even finish them off. What do we have? We have people calling the Champion for a late game finish. We've people calling the Sergeant, going with that aggro theme. I can see how that makes sense. We have 3 picks for the Sergeant, so that is the one. Next up, we're almost there, guys. 3 cards to go. We've got Repentance, we've got a Blessing of Kings, and a Spiteful Smith. So we've had one of these in terms of the Repentance. I won't cover that. So, Blessing of Kings. One person in the chat saying, all I wanted was a Hammer of Wrath, and you didn't pick it. Well, it's your guys' choices. I only get the choice in terms of a... if there is a deadlock, then I get the choice. But there hasn't been a deadlock so far. So, Blessing of Kings will really let us buff and give minion 4/4, so a very solid buff. Apologies, there's a huge plane flying over. You can probably hear. We are not too far from the Heathrow Airport flight path, for those who know the UK or London, not too far away from there. And the Spiteful Smith, last but not least, arranging a weapon with 2 attack. But don't forget, even if we don't have a weapon, this card, because of its mana, attack and health, is really, really awkward. However, you guys have all voted for Kings, so Kings it is. 2 cards to go, guys. We're almost there. Thank you very, very much, and congrats on this drafting. The Murloc Tidehunter, true silver champion. Now it comes out after all of those cards that could have thrived off a weapon, and all of those cards that we have rejected. I've only rejected one of your choices so far, or had to be the deadlock decider. So the Murloc Tidehunter, do you know what? Even if we are not playing a Murloc-centric deck, that doesn't go too badly with our early game theme of being really awkward. Putting a lot of pressure on. It's a 2-for-1 card. True Silver Champion. As a basic card, if you guys are playing Paladin for the first time, there's nothing really bad about the True Silver Champion. It's got good attack for the mana that it does. It's got good durability. It can trade, and then it does a little heal as well. Last but not least, the Priestess. Another card that comes in that late game and heals us. We have 1 for the Priestess at the moment, 1 for the True Silver. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time just to break that deadlock if you want to. What would you like to pick? Let us see. The choices are up to you. Okay, I mean, I'm looking at the late game, and we've certainly got... let me just try and click and scroll down there. We have a few... We've already got a couple of options that heal. Another one isn't necessarily bad if we're throwing things up. I know we've had a switch decision, so the True Silver Champion is the one that drops. And last but not least, we have a Master Swordsmith. We have a Defender of Argus again. And we also have an Alarma bot. Now, I binned an arena. I was 2-2 in my previous arena run. I'll publish it to YouTube. But there are some hilarious things in arena that you can do with the Alarma bot. And the reason for it is if you pick one and you have the right hand, you engineer your hand in the right way, you drop the Alarma bot, your opponent may not kill it, and then you suddenly, instead of a 3-mana card, it swaps out for something like a Ragnaros. And in my last game, I really sort of, managed to swap out the Alarma bot for a Ragnaros, which is absolutely brilliant. But you guys have triple chosen on a defender. So that is our deck. Right, let us get going. While I take a screening of this, sadly I can't fit it all in one, but there are a whole bunch of options. What have you guys gone for? Let's have a look at the mana curve. Well, I think it's very obvious what we're trying to do here. In the early game, we're trying to swing on in and lay a bunch of minions on the table. This is a Paladin aggro deck if ever there was one. We can try and go for some control, but we don't have a big bunch of spells. You guys have really weighed up on the minions. You've gone for a good arena of philosophy actually in terms of drafting a bunch of 2 to 4 early attacking minions. With the Paladin's power, of course, of summoning a minion, we can swing on in and do a whole bunch of damage as well. Make sure that if we're not drafting the minions we want, we can still keep filling the table. We've got Defender of Argus for tanking things up. We've got a lot of buffing options as well, and then in the late game we've got some other minions that, with 2, I think we've got 2 Stormwind Champions. I'll have to double check. But that will really buff all of the minions we have in the late game. So I think we've got a strong Paladin aggro option. So let's see. We will try and stick in a quick couple of games. I know we've just run to the half-hour mark, but see how your deck thrives. So what we really want is lots of early game options. I'm going to throw all of those back. I could have kept the Wolf Rider. And what do we get as a trade? Well, we get another Argus, thanks to your good drafting. We've got a Frostwood Gold as a tank and a Novice Engineer. So we've got some good options. Consecration is drawn, means we can put some pressure on. And as our opponent, we have a Shaman. Now, this Shaman will probably give us some interesting things. Shaman, of course, let's not forget that they've got some various nastiness up their sleeves as well. They can very much put some pressure on us. They can draft a whole bunch of cards and do some very awkward things. So turn 2, they have managed to coin out the nasty option. Whoever's asking for that Hammer of Wrath, that's where I'd like to remove that. I'm not going to be able to remove him. I don't really want him to aggro and buff up. I'm just going to throw down the Novice Engineer. If he wants to remove me, he can. I can now remove him with that Wolf Rider next turn. So I'll just throw down the Novice Engineer for the card draw option. In the background you can hear me frantically and furiously saving various bits and bobs while we wait for our opponent to make their next call. A Shaman will go for board control by flooding the deck with minions too. And why is it our Shaman has decided not to attack me? That's interesting. He could have done a free 2 damage on my hero for absolutely nothing, so maybe a slight misplay there. Right, I'm just going to go for the trades. I don't really want that Amani Berserker. The Enrage is easy to trigger and it can be a nasty swinging threat. Shaman also, of course, could throw some Wind Fury down, so we don't really want a Wind Fury either. I am going to see if I can post... it's not the whole deck, but I'm going to try and grab a bit of this arena deck just so we've got something up in our column for your reference. Frantic photoshopping. I say photoshopping, that's probably a glorified term for what this is. Arena HSH55. We've just seen a totem thrown down for the solid play. If in doubt, as a Shaman, there's nothing wrong with a good solid totem on the board. Go, go, go. Let's see what else we've got. Where's it gone? I've managed to lose something. Right, let's play. We'll find the overlay file later. What has been happening? Well, a straight swing in with a rock biter. Interesting as well. He's decided not to go for the trades. So what can I do? I'm not going to consecrate just yet. There's not enough threats on the board, I feel, for me to really do that. A Defender of Argus would be slightly wasted at this point in time. I can certainly Abusive Sergeant away to remove that tank, or I could drop a bubble to remove the tank next turn. I'm going to drop the bubble to remove the tank next turn. In fact, I can have my cake and eat it. Abusive Sergeant, you'll see it in a lot of Zoo Warlock decks for buffing up your small minions. And there, you know what, for one turn I've just got rid of the tank. I've got some nice solid board control on by turn 4. If we remember our mana curve, then I really want to be pushing home my advantage at this stage. Unless our Shaman friend decides to throw down a Lightning Storm or something similarly offensive to my Spirit in general, then I think that's going to be quite good. Right, where has my overlay file gone? I know the folder I've saved it to. Let's see if I can find it. Hello? Druid Zume. What's going on? I'm just going to save it again. Oh, offensiveness there. We can see Flame Tongue Totem, very, very dangerous in general. And that means that he can just... he's managed to go for Fork Lightning as well, so he's overloaded next turn. Of course, that means he cannot play as much mana, by 2. But he's removed a couple of threats. So I want to get rid of that totem because I do not like it. I think that the right order of play here, just so close. It would be nicer if I could drop both, but I think what I'm going to do is... Oh, schoolboy error. I should have taken away that Flame Tongue. And I should have done that by dropping the Argus. I was loath to drop an Argus on 1. So a slight misplay. Dropping the Argus on that 1 minion, just give it that 1 buff. It feels a bit weird. Why not drop it when there were 2? That's what I was struggling with, but really removing that Flame Tongue. He may not have charging minions this turn, but if he tanks, if he does other things, I just wanted to get that Flame Tongue totem gone and off the deck as soon as I could. Arena, interesting. So that's... Ooh, Ancestral Healing, and that is nasty and awkward. See, I had a chance to remove that Flame Tongue, and now suddenly we have a 4/3 Tauren Warrior. It's not even enraged. If I enrage it, it's going to be nasty. So I need to find a way of removing all that. I could go for a so hyper-aggressive play, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is show you exactly why you guys picking the Argent Commander was so useful. And that will be proved out here. Gone. Trade of the Hawaiian. Using that bubble was definitely worth it. I could, of course, not had that problem in the first place. It was awkward. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, beautiful so stuff. So we made a few silly mistakes there, but I think we managed to come out of it okay. Blood Knight, we made a fun deck around that the other Friday. For those of you who tuned in, I'd like to play that some more, but there are no bubbles in this deck. So we are now in an oh-so-solid position to push home here. I think, first up, we don't really need to heal. The Earthen Ring Farseer will give us some nasty aggro options. Remember when playing your Defender of Argus, it is all about positioning. who do you want to position it in between? What I can do is then buff up these guys. Both of them are attacking this turn, so if I play a Defender of Argus next to a sleeping minion, I'm not going to be able to do anything with that buff. However, here I can actually go ahead and use it right away. I think I'm just going to trade that away. I'm going to remove that totem, and then, you know what, we're in a lovely position to swing for a couple of attacking blows, so that is nice. So you guys are I'm really glad that this deck is pushing forward in a good way. We have managed to get this aggro concept in the early game off really well. Big threat from the Shaman in terms of that foil elemental. How should we deal with it? Well, we've got an Argus. We could just take it in the face in terms of taking that damage straight on our hero, and indeed I think that is the option we're going to go for. Using your health of your hero as a resource is something that sometimes people are a little bit nervous to do. Yeah, okay, I didn't actually get the benefit of the heal. Remember that the heal triggers before you actually swing, so that would have healed me for 0 and then swung for 4 damage. Important to remember. What could I do? I could drop a... I just sort of got a bit trigger happy there. I could drop another Argus. This is a slight misplay in terms of I should have played that before attacking with this to get the extra damage. So, menacing a little bit in terms of generally failing it up. I could use the excuse for it's been a long day, but really what the problem is that I'm just playing a bit too quick. Thankfully the deck drafting that you guys have done is nice and strong, meaning that I don't have to worry too much. Although we've finally seen a Hex come out from the Shaman. He's removed probably one of the big attacking threats off the board, which is good. He's got some awkward tanks up there, but this is a harsh arena hand. He would never be expecting this. I'm going to get nasty. And he is just going to be sitting there going, how has this team of people or this player managed to draft 2 Consecrates in a row? And as you can see here, what I've actually done is set up with those 2 Consecrates the execute. Good game, well played. Your deck has prevailed in our first game. Bosh! And you know what, guys, that's a really great example of that deck coming through. That's a really solid, showing how Paladin can be pretty strong in arena. Not played enough Golden Hand of protection there. Showing how it can really be solid. I mean, I think our philosophy that we saw, whether you guys were drafting towards it, we took a good break at halfway and saw we were quite aggression focused, and then you guys really picked a whole bunch of aggressive cards. We never had a lack of options in the early game, and because we managed to have table control, probably part due to the card selection, not really due to my play because I made a few silly mistakes there, and partially maybe because the Shaman was struggling for cards, we don't know. We managed to really get a very strong set of minions on the board, trade away the threats, keep the pressure on, and then could just swing in at the end of the game. So GG. To finish up this episode in terms of the voice commentated part, obviously as always we'll stream on afterwards, but probably without the microphone on. We'll just play one more mic comment. Not enough Hammer of Wrath. Well, we hope, I very much hope that the lack of Hammer of Wrath, although it was a pain in the early game, was made up for in terms of our skills. Okay. Our joint skills, your skills in drafting, and really I'm just the avatar here in terms of making things happen. So playing another Shaman, I'm actually going to, again, I could keep that Aldor Peacekeeper, but I'm just going to throw the lot back. I'd really like for you guys, having seen, as we've seen that mana curve, because there's a lot of early game drafting, we want a lot of early game drafting. We would like some aggressive options there. I've managed somehow, no, I've managed to find, ooh, while we're drafting, let's try and get that floating. This is not our entire deck, by the way, it is a selection. There are a couple of 1 mana cards up there, just so you guys know what you've got. He's gone straight for a 2 overload and dropped a Dust Devil. Well, there's not really much I can do to answer to that. There's nothing I can play this turn. I could coin out a minion. I'm going to go super aggro. The reason for that is that actually turn 2, I can't deal with it. He's going to deal 6 damage to me next go with that Wind Furying minion. He certainly shouldn't attack this Silverhand recruit. That would be a bad trade for him. There you go. Even though he had the overload, you can see a really strong turn 1 card there. He's really hurt me there. Sadness, infinite sadness. As the Scott Pilgrim book would say, Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness. If you're not a fan of Brian Lee O'Malley's work, I'm sure you've seen the Scott Pilgrim film directed by Edgar Wright, who also directed Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead and other such cheesy Cornetto trilogy classics. But the Edgar Wright also directed the Scott Pilgrim adaptation. I'm going to jump out of cinema trivia. We've had a horrible Mana Tide Totem thrown down, a nasty option for the Shaman. I just want that off the table. Anything that gives him lots of card drawing options, the longer I leave that on the table, the more cards he gets. The more cards he gets, the more problems there are going to be. Drawing cards in a card game, generally speaking, unless you've got a full hand of cards, is good. In terms of rules of life, probably one of the 10 Hearthstone commandments, if there are any, or card game commandments. Yay, drawing cards is good. So if Hearthstone was a religion, then drawing cards would be one of the 10 central tenets. It has been a long day at the office. So forgive my sideways rambling. Knife Juggler, a brilliant aggressive option in any aggro deck, and you can immediately see that. Oh, the pain. Random number generation. It's a coin flip, of course, or a dice roll as to who the Knife Juggler does the 1 damage to. Typical, he does it to the 1 minion that I want to do some damage to. An equality at this point I feel is a little bit premature. An early game Consecrate could certainly throw some damage out there, but it's going to stop me getting minion damage on the table. But I don't really want to leave that Knife Juggler on the table longer than I have to. What I can, however, do is throw down a Raid Leader. What the Raid Leader will do is let me remove that Knife Juggler whilst saving the Consecration. Against a Shaman, of course, you want table clearance. They are, of course, throwing down all of those annoying totems if they don't have anything else to pick. And what they will do, of course, is fill up the table. You can have tanks down there and similar. And the overloading to the Stormforged Axe gives him another control element. He can remove my little minion sitting there. So I want to do some more trading if at all possible. Pardon me. So I could get out the Skillwind Yeti. I don't really want to. I can't equality, so there's no way that I can remove this card this turn, even if I wanted to. I just don't have enough mana. So I would probably like some card drawing options. The Chillwind Yeti will give me a trading decision to make, or I can throw in an Acolyte of Pain, and also a Silverhand Recruit that will let me make some decisions as to how I want to draw cards and similar next go. The Chillwind would give him some trading options. Does he want to remove stuff off the table? He may just decide, as most people would decide, to throw in Edgar Wright is the man, Simon Pegg is the man. We'll not get too deviated on the films, but they certainly are awesome. In this option, I've pretty much taken as read that he is going to hit me to the face here. He does have a couple of... Oh, and there you go with the buff. The Shaman also going for aggro options, and the Direwolf Alpha just buffing everything awkwardly. He can then remove cards at ease. Interestingly, he has decided not to hit me in the face, but he's gone for the Acolyte of Pain. By saving that call for one more turn, even though I do have, of course, 2 Consecrations, you can see that my... Oh, that is the annoying thing. He just took that Blood Cell Raider out of kill range for me. With the Wild Pyromancer, I've got some horrible, oh so horrible options as well. I'm going to do a horrible combo. This is why you guys pick the Pyromancer. This is why Consecration is evil. And that will do... Look at that, the beauty. So the 2 across the board from the Consecration hits, and then the follow-up damage from the Wild Pyromancer, even though he wasn't on 2 health, managed to give me some nice options. A Reckless Rocketeer, that should go straight into my hero, I hope. That will be the very sensible play. There we go, the Shaman aggressive, hitting me in the face as strongly as possible. I need to remove that from the table. My health is getting a bit low. Remember, of course, that you guys have picked some good late game cards that will let me heal myself up and get myself back in the game. I just want that off the table ASAP. So that is why the Argent Commander gets the nod. Other options? I could have thrown down for... I don't have 8. If I had 8 mana, I would have thrown down probably a Senjin and a Defender, or maybe a Skillwind Yeti and a Defender, giving me just a wall of taunts that Reckless Rocketeer would just not get through. Fire Elemental goes down, real aggro, a nice 2 battle, 3 damage from the Battle Cry, picking off that minion. We're under the cosh here, guys, I'm not going to lie, but we do have some options in our toolkit. I'm hoping that we're running out, so let's go for another control play. We'll change the health of all minions to 1. We'll then jump out with a Consecrates, get those down, and then we'll token. So we've removed another threat. Being honest, we can see that we've gone through 2 Consecrates, we've gone through our Wild Pyromancer, we've gone through our Equality. Those are our, and another big minion comes out. We are struggling now for control options, so I need, having not managed to get the table under control in the mid game, the tempo is really with our Shaman friend here. We are just sort of struggling to make it up. So we don't have anything with charge. I can certainly offer a target unless he's got another Hex or something similar. I can throw out a couple of awkward tanking targets to force this Boulder Fist Ogre to go through a couple of big tanks. That may well be the solid option. Plays Abusive Sergeant. There's just, I can Blessings of Kings for 5 and I can Sergeant for 7. That will give me enough to remove that Ogre in one go. It then leaves me with 4 mana to throw down something else on the table. There's nothing that will survive this heroic play. I'm going to go for a last bit of extreme control. Now, the final thing I can throw down, I think it's good to throw down a tanking option to shield myself from this onslaught. Your choice of buffs allows me to power up, remove that big threat, and in terms of a desperate clutch control play, that's probably the last one I think I've got in the deck. I don't know what else we've got in terms of control. We've got soft control and good. We've got a turn of respite here, apart from that Unbound Elemental, and if he throws down something with Overload, which he does, and he has a real sort of play in a Forked Lightning backed up with the spell power of that Kobold Geomancer. Although his health is low, you can see our Shaman has played a very, very solid game. He has kept some really, really solid plays on the table, got a whole host of minion options. We're still playing catch up. So I don't really want to heal just now. I want to make things as awkward as possible for my opponents, and I'm going to do so by just trying to fill the table with tanks. Hey, okay, you need 6 damage if you want to be taking out my tank, 2 damage for the other one, and guess what? Next go, I can throw down another 2 big tanks as well. I'd play the Dark Skill Healer here, probably, and then the Defender of Argus in between the Dark Skill Healer and that. So if he doesn't manage to kill it all in one go, we have got 4 tanks on the table, making it awkward. We may not be winging quick, but we're certainly putting a lot of barriers in the way of our opponent. I'm just waiting for another Lightning Storm or something. But our Shaman friend here has actually drafted a very, very solid deck. You would have noticed his or her strategy was to fill the table with minions. They've got good control spells. They've been able to keep up very solid pressure on us from the early to mid game as well. So we're both playing similar goals and visions, but we've gone about it in 2 different ways. So, oh my goodness, look at that. A Molten Giant thriving off the damage. So dropping that, he's got a late game finisher in 3/4. I need to find a way of removing that giant from the table post haste. So what can I do? There's nothing that will let me... I can get this to 6. I'm not going to get it to enough to be able to remove. I cannot remove that tank immediately. I need to put awkward options in the way. So I can get this to 7 health. He may trade for the giant for it anyway, but I need to make sure that I've got other awkward trading options in the way. So we can heal everything up. Placement, I can create 2 tanks here, which is double the attrition to get through, but he may be able to do some sneaky little trading plays. Time will tell us whether that was the correct placement. I'm going to remove that tank. I've then got one more option. I can remove the Unbound Elemental, but that will mean that he can remove me with a smaller spell rather than that Molten Giant. I'm going to get the threat off the table for the time being. I'm just going to have to knock on the table and pass. So although we have board control nominally, I do have a heal in the bank. I'm swiftly running out of options. The great deck that you have crafted, really it all comes down to if he's got a way of removing my minions and keeping that Molten Giant alive, it may well be good game. But if he does not, and interestingly, he has just decided to remove one of my big tanks. But there you go, Ancestral Health, he can just heal it straight back up and give it Taunt. He has done a lovely 2-for-1 there, and got a something for nothing, along with another tank that robs me of some more spell power. By spell power I mean attacking power, and oh, another tank being minion down. You can just see how awkward tanks are in this mode. I've just drawn into a draw power option there in the Cult Master. So the first thing I should do is that. I don't really want to sacrifice my minion at this point. I can heal up. Now, do I want to heal up my tank here? I probably do, to make sure he can't remove it, rather than heal up my hero. My tanks are what are going to keep me alive, and for that reason, I'm going to go in with my fast healer and heal up my tank. So we've still got a few attacking options here. I can trade a few bits off the table. Let's pick off a few of the more niggling things. Now, I could go all out and remove this Molten Giant. I will have no tanks. But if I remove that Molten Giant, at least it means it gives me some tempo. So this is one of those tough decisions you have, to trade or not to trade. For the Shakespearean fans among you, cheeky little line from Hamlet, I'm going to go for 2 trade here. And why am I trading? It lets me, with that Cult Master, which you guys picked, draw 2 cards. So, just tell you what the beauty is. Look at what we've got next go. We've got a Stormwind Champion, which immediately makes all of our minions more dangerous. And then we also have an Old Peacekeeper. If he does drop another big attacking threat, we can nerf it. At least down to 1 damage. So even if we can't attack, I'm sure he has gone as I would do. Oh, it's an awkward play, but we can do things against it. Another solid card in the Shaman arsenal. Feral Spirit. Just giving you an overload, but late in this game he doesn't have many cards. He's not too worried about overloading. And for this reason, I could change health to 1. There's nothing here that's going to cause me huge difficulties. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop things in the right order. I'm going to drop the Ooze. Unless he drops a Doom Hammer, I'll regret that. I'll then drop the Stormwind Champion. Oh, buffage! Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And do I hit him in the face or do I trade the minions off the table? I trade the minions off the table. Reason for doing that, I don't think we quite had an execute play. I would much rather have a clear table. It may be that he turns around and uses a Lightning Storm or similar now, but if that is the case, then at least we've done as much as we can. Oh, and a surrender.
Well played.
And as we just link up and just type a few little wrap-up pieces, and that is actually going to be it for the voice commentated part of tonight's episode. We've already gone on a lot longer than our Hearthstone half hour, but really well played, guys. Thanks very much for that draft. You can see your deck is already 2-0, so cracking stuff. Just to summarise that episode, every Tuesday we get you guys now to tune in instead of us drafting deck. We get you to do it for us. Do you know what? You're doing a lot better job than I normally do. And then we play it in some games and see how it goes. We're going to drop off voice comms now because that's the end of the bit for YouTube. But what we'll do is, as always, continue streaming on off microphone, off of this. So thank you oh so much for tuning in. If you tweeted in, if you fed into the chat and voted for the comms, where can you find more of this stuff? Well, we do try and do 4 or 5 nights a week. We'll always tweet maybe an hour before we're going out. And if you're tuning on to this live, you can see our archives at youtube.com/Felcraftcasts, Hearthstone, a bunch of stuff. We try and do 4 or 5 nights a week of Hearthstone as well as other games, so please tune in and let us know what you think. Lots more Hearthstone goodness there. Monday, new player, deck creation and concepts. Tuesday, arena. Wednesday's ladder. Thursday will be tactics or a bit more in-depth strategy. And then Friday we either do something fun in Hearthstone or take a night off and play another game. If you guys are seeing these on YouTube, then we are live, twitch.tv/Felcraftcasts. Try and go out 4 or 5 nights a week, 7:30 to 8 PM UK London time. It'd be great to see you there, and you can get involved live with these episodes, feed into what we're playing and similar. Twitter.com/Felcraftcast. We are there. Please tweet us and let us know what we're doing well, what we can do more of, or just come for a chat. If we're not streaming during the day, we are there also, and then also off-peak hours for you guys too. And last but not least, the website is felcraft.org. Videos go up on there maybe a couple of days. I've had a couple of questions on this recently. Videos go up on there maybe 2-3 days after we actually do the episodes live and stick them on YouTube. So our priority generally is updating YouTube, but we will update the website as much as we can with Hearthstone news, other bits and bobs, and generally things that don't sit so well in a video. So deck lists, strategy articles, and links. So without further ado, so I'm just going to drop off these, and hopefully we've got an end screen that's partially covered up with your arena deck. Now it's an end screen. So for all of those watching not live, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been great to have you. Please rate, comment, subscribe, let us know what we can do better. If you like it, then fantastic, share it, we'd love it. And if you don't like it, then that's fine, just let us know what we can do better to make better content for you. Thanks very much for tuning in to the slightly over Hearthstone half hour tonight, and for everyone who's in the chat, I will see you again on Twitch soon. If you're not live, then I hope to see you again in